Sophie Hardy in the Internet Implant by M.R. Dale. Narrated by Leona Hall. Chapter 16. How did we get here? Eventually, King started to tell Sophie everything, and Sophie kept recapping the story in her mind. He had secretly run an agency that stopped the Mythicals in the olden days from taking over the Earth. His partner, Dale Nathan, had run it along with him, and they had operated in complete secrecy. Nathan decided that this was unfair, and that the agents who were risking their lives should be praised and recognised by the people they were saving. King didn't like this idea. He believed that it would do the agency no good whatsoever to open its doors like that. Nathan continued his quest, though, and got all the other agents on side. Miss Sissons had sensed that they were close to going public, and in order to protect the agency's secrets, set about putting in a fail-safe should the agents go too far, which King had agreed to. This fail-safe came in 3 forms. The very first implants that were administered to the agents in order to upload them if they went too far. At this point, King would have done literally anything to protect his company. A protective shield that would cut the world off from the rest of the universe, and an ear-splitting sound wave that would send every mythical creature into hiding, as there would be nobody to stop them doing whatever they wanted. Just a few days after the final agent had been implanted, Shadow received word that the worst threat the world had ever faced had arrived from beyond the stars, and the agents demanded recognition from the public in order to stop it. Sensing a catastrophic mutiny from his agents that would cost the planet everything, King instructed Miss Sissons to activate the failsafe. Within a few minutes of flicking the switch, the defensive shield had been dropped to stop the invasion. To the best of their knowledge, every mythical creature had been sent into hiding, and every agent had been wiped out in one go. At the disappearance of the agents, Dale Nathan was livid. He knew that King and Miss Sissons had done it on purpose to stop him going public with them. Before he could do any more, Miss Sissons had used Nathan's own implant against him and trapped him in a different body using the first plug-in of its kind, meaning nobody would believe he was who he said he was. With no mythical creatures to protect the world from, and the Shadow Corporation making infinite amounts of money by selling the updated implant, which wasn't affected by the departure, the 3 were at a loss as what to do. They knew the shield around the Earth and Soundwave wouldn't last forever, but that the agents were gone for good, as nobody knew exactly where they had been uploaded to. It was like their consciences had been lost in the uploading process. They existed, but were lost in an infinite line of code. So they needed a plan for the day when the return came, as none of them knew how to bring the agents back. Nathan had suspected that King did know where they were, but would never get that information out of him. In a few years, Earth would be open up to visitors beyond the stars again, and mythical creatures would be free to roam the land once more if something wasn't done. After a few years of discussion, the 3 of them agreed that the best way to bring the agency back would be to use children as agents rather than adults. The reasoning behind the 3's opinions, though, was very different. Nathan thought that children would be more fame and fortune hungry than the adults, and so would find it very easy to manipulate them to eventually get the recognition he felt he deserved. Miss Sissons and King, however, thought the complete opposite, that children were morally stronger and more aware of the need for security and subtlety. King just questioned whether children could handle the complexity of how to complete missions, and worried that leaving the responsibility in such young, inexperienced hands might be dangerous for the planet, and wasn't completely convinced that children would keep his beloved company and legacy safe. As a result to their many disagreements, Nathan left, and Miss Sissons and King continued to run Shadow and give the people of the world what they wanted. Not long after the split, Miss Sissons decided that if they were going to start using children in a few years when the shield failed, then they had better start recruiting some. At the same time, Nathan had had the same idea. He had settled down, married, and had a son of his own, and started a career as a teacher, quickly working his way up to be a head. Following him into the profession, Miss Sissons knew exactly where to start looking for children: the small village of Pinkleton in the middle of England. King didn't understand, but Miss Sissons insisted they should look at using a young girl at school called Clara, as Jane said she had a skill set that no other child would have. King saw no reason to argue, but said they must wait until Clara was older. Nathan also started at Pinkleton on the same day as Miss Sissons, but under the guise of Mr. Houghton. He knew there must be a reason that Jane would start there, but didn't know what it was. Miss Sissons didn't see it as a problem, and agreed with King that this was the perfect way to keep an eye on Nathan. Once she had finished Year 5 and started the summer holiday, Clara was brought in as the first agent, giving the 3 remaining members of Shadow time to train her up before they brought in even more children. Clara impressed immediately in all the tests she was given, but didn't completely blow the adults away. Miss Sissons claimed she had a natural talent for it, and King could see that she knew more than she was letting on. Nathan had pressed Clara for how much of a desire she had to want to be rich and famous, but she clearly wasn't the sort of child, and she had morals and ideas that aligned a lot more with Miss Sissons and King. Annoyed that Clara wouldn't give him what he wanted, and with Miss Sissons and King unwilling to take on any more children yet, Nathan had hijacked not just Clara's implant, but her dad's as well. He hid them away from Miss Sissons and King and only agreed to let her free if he could give an implant to his own son, who he was sure would follow in his footsteps and desire fame and fortune over everything else. Backed into a corner, Miss Sissons and King agreed to give Reuben an implant, but only if other children of their choosing could also be given one. The 3 agreed, and so the competition was announced at school as a cover. King contacted Sophie's and Yasmin's parents through Miss Sissons, and all was set up. All was going as King, Miss Sissons and Nathan wanted until during Sophie's implantation, when Clara had attempted to break through and contact her, inadvertently causing Sophie to faint and become the face of the whole process, when Nathan had been so determined that the honour should have befallen his son and he could start drawing attention to him. It was when Nathan saw Sophie leave school that day to a barrage of reporters that he realised that nobody was interested in his son, and so refused to give up Clara's location to Miss Sissons and King. He had well and truly gone back on the deal. Without proof that his story was true, Nathan had nothing and was so holding Clara hostage until he decided what to do next. So there they all now were, waiting to find out what Clara's message said to Sophie. "That's some story," Sophie said, desperately trying to keep up with it all. "I think I need to hear it again," Yasmin added, quite confused. Sophie had followed it well and now understood a lot more than before, so she zoned back into the implant and clicked on the message icon by looking at it and blinking twice. The screen faded, then reappeared as a satellite map with a pin in one of the buildings. Next to the pin was an envelope icon. Sophie looked at it and blinked twice. It opened and simply said, "Help." "It's a map," Sophie said, without zoning out. She heard King's voice. "Send it to me so I can work out where she is." Sophie, though, didn't need to. She knew exactly where this message had come from. She recognised the map. "She's at home," she said, sounding confused. "Send it to me," King repeated. Sophie closed the programmes and clicked the share button. As a result, the white tubes disappeared and the map was uploaded onto a large monitor that simply appeared out of the floor and positioned itself in front of the 4 people in the room. "But that doesn't make sense," Sophie said, zoning back into the real world. "Why would she still be at home? She left 6 weeks ago." "I don't know," Miss Sissons replied. "We need to go there and find out." Sophie was determined now. She knew where her cousin was and wanted desperately to go and fetch her. "We can't go right now," Miss Sissons said. "Break time's nearly over. We need to get back." "Sorry," Yasmin said incredulously. "We have to go back and do English and grammar before we can go and rescue Clara." Miss Sissons nodded. "Pretty much. That's how it works. Ever since we lost all of our agents, things have to take their time." "That's ridiculous. You need more agents," said Yasmin, still not quite believing what she was hearing. "Well, yes, Miss Ariti. Why do you think you 2 are here and Clara is out there?" King added. "Like I said, I tried doing this with the adults. They got obsessed with the idea of payment and fame. I meant what I said on the stage at your school. Children are one of the greatest assets on this planet, and for too long they have been ignored by too many people. When I relaunch this agency, I want the best agents I can muster. Children. Children can carry themselves in such a better way than adults. They know the difference between right and wrong and do their best to stand up for everyone else and not put themselves first." Yasmin looked decidedly unimpressed. "Bit cheesy, don't you think?" she said with a smirk. Sophie and Miss Sissons nodded. King tutted and grumbled to himself. "So, what do you think, you 2? Care to help rescue Clara?" Miss Sissons asked with excitement in her voice. "Yes," they both replied. "After literacy and grammar," Miss Sissons concluded. This time Yasmin and Sophie's yes was a lot more subdued. "Do we get to be full agents?" Yasmin asked. "Save the world and protect millions of innocent people?" "We will see about that. You'll have to prove to Mr. King that you're capable. That's the one doubt he has. Make him question you, and he will soon get rid of you. Nothing will make him risk his company," Miss Sissons added. "But hopefully, after literacy, when we have to rescue Clara, I can bring you back here and give you the proper tour." "Can we keep our code names?" Yasmin asked. "No," Miss Sissons replied instantly. Despite the rejection, Yasmin and Sophie still looked incredibly excited. Sophie couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams that something like this was going to happen. Her fantasies were becoming true, albeit not in the way she'd imagined, but long may it continue, she thought to herself. She now had an implant and was going to make the most of it. She might have been used, but right now there were people, not least her cousin, who needed her help. Miss Sissons explained to Yasmin and Sophie how to deactivate the time dilator plug-in, and the three of them found themselves back in the classroom. The clock showed just 30 seconds after they'd left. Sophie put the white ball to one side as Miss Sissons left the room to go and get the rest of the class. Yasmin and Sophie got their stuff ready for literacy. This was going to be a long lesson. The Sophie Hardy Saga was written and produced by Emma Dale and narrated and produced by Leona Hall. If you enjoyed it and would like to continue to follow the adventures of Sophie and her friends in coming episodes, then please subscribe through one of the many podcast providers out there. The links for each of these can be found on our website. If you require more information, visit our many social media channels, or if you would like to purchase a hard copy of the book, then be sure to check out www.sophiehardysaga.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy.